Moonlight is no more white. Chapter 1, The Albino Painter. Liao Chengxian, this name may not be familiar to most people, but when it comes to the blank moonlit night, everyone knows it. As an albino painter, Liao Chenxuan's face is almost colorless, his fair skin and transparent pupils give people an unreal beauty, he is like a spirit coming out of a painting. Isolated since childhood, he pinned all his emotions on the canvas, but because of his morbid appearance and isolated personality, he stood out in the crowd. Most people mistakenly think that Liao Chengxian relies on and worships Mr. Xiao and Xiao Fengchen beside him. Xiao Fengchen, the president of the Xia Group, was born with a handsome appearance, coupled with his cold personality and power, he always attracted everyone's attention. And Liao Chengxian, as Xiao Fengchen's painter and personal assistant, is always stuck to Mr. Xiao's side like a shadow. But people don't know that Liao Chenxuan's dependence on Xiao Fengchen is not because of sincere worship, but because of a long-forgotten past, his white moonlight. That Bai Yueguang is his long-deceased childhood sweetheart, named Bai Kangxuan. Bai Kangxuan and he grew up together since childhood, and the relationship between the two is deep and irreplaceable. However, a sudden car accident took Bai Kangxuan's life, and Liao Chengxian fell into endless pain because of it. Since then, he couldn't let go of this relationship until he met Xiao Fengchen. He's just a stand-in, Liao Chengxian told himself in his heart, this seemingly deep dependence is actually just the impact of the past on the future that he can't let go. He used Xiao Fengchen as Bai Kangxuan's stand-in, so that he could unconsciously regain the lost emotion. Chapter 2, The Existence of White Moonlight. However, Liao Chengxian didn't know that Bai Kangxuan didn't really leave. In the form of a ghost, he quietly guarded Liao Chengxian. Whenever night came, when Liao Chengxian fell asleep, he could always hear a faint murmur, as if someone was whispering in his ear. At first, Liao Chengxian thought it was an auditory hallucination. But more and more nights, he began to feel Bai Kangxuan's presence. Bai Kangxuan is not an evil ghost, but his appearance makes Liao Chengxian feel at ease. He knew that he was not alone, and Bai Kangxuan was always by his side. However, as time went on, Liao Chengxian felt more and more strange. Bai Kangxuan's existence seems to have gradually undergone some changes. Bai Kangxuan was not just quietly guarding like before, he began to become more and more active, and even at some point, he would try to have a conversation with Liao Chengxian. Liao Chengxian didn't understand why Bai Kangxuan paid so much attention to him, but he always regarded all this as his emotional confusion. Until one day, he accidentally heard Bai Kangxuan's self-muttering. He's like a substitute for me, and I'm already in love with him. Bai Kangxuan's voice was low, with a trace of pain that could not be concealed. At this moment, Liao Chenxuan's heart shook suddenly. He originally thought that Bai Kangxuan was just a simple ghost, just guarding him. However, it turned out that Bai Kangxuan, the Bai Yueguang he once relied on incomparably, had already fallen in love with his stand-in. Chapter 3, Emotional Confusion. Bai Kangxuan's confession filled Liao Chenxuan's heart with chaos. He couldn't understand at first, why did Bai Kangxuan have such feelings for him? He is a stand-in, and even his own existence is only to fill the vacancy in Bai Kangxuan's heart. However, Bai Kangxuan's love is not a simple infatuation. The relationship between him and Liao Chengxian has long transcended the boundary between life and death. Bai Kangxuan's soul was attached to Liao Chenxuan's side and could not leave. Whenever Liao Chengxian painted, Bai Kangxuan would always appear next to the canvas and silently guard him. And when Xiao Fengchen showed too much concern for Liao Chengxian, Bai Kangxuan would feel extremely jealous and painful. This emotion is becoming more and more distorted. Bai Kangxuan couldn't stand Liao Chenxuan's dependence on Xiao Fengchen, but he couldn't disappear from his life. He was always by Liao Chenxuan's side, silently guarding, and silently hurting. Liao Chengxian never understood why he became the center of this emotional entanglement, and why one of his stand-ins was able to affect so many souls. Chapter 4, The Betrayal of the Stand-in. As Liao's paintings became more and more visible, his relationship with Xiao Fengchen became more and more delicate. Xiao Fengchen's care and dependence on him made everyone mistakenly think that there was a special relationship between the two. However, the scar in Liao Chenxuan's heart has never healed, and he knows that what he relies on is only Bai Kangxuan's stand-in. But the problem arose, the stand-in actually began to be infatuated with him. Xiao Fengchen, a strong and ruthless business tycoon, can't escape Liao Chenxuan's attraction no matter what. For him, Liao Chengxian seemed like an inescapable puzzle. When he gradually realized that he had developed stronger and stronger feelings for Liao Chengxian, he also began to struggle. You don't love me at all, do you? One day, Xiao Fengchen was no longer so indifferent, with a hint of provocation in his eyes. What you love is just my stand-in, right? Liao Chengxian looked at him, speechless. The struggle in his heart made it impossible for him to respond to this emotion. All this was too complicated for him. He could neither let go of the deceased Bai Kangxuan, nor could he have any response to the man in reality in front of him. At this moment, Liao Chengxian realized that both Bai Yueguang and Bai Yueguang's stand-in had fallen deeply in love with him. Chapter 5, The End of the Triangle Puzzle. Time passed day by day, and Liao Chenxuan's heart became more and more full of chaos and uneasiness. He couldn't stand the struggle, couldn't let go of the past, couldn't accept the reality. He finally made a decision, let everything go. However, when he decides to leave it all, he finds that he can't escape. You can't go. Xiao Fengchen's tone was firm. He was no longer the indifferent president, but became extremely gentle. No matter where you go, whether it is Bai Kangxuan or me, we will follow you. Liao Chengxian lowered his head, and tears slipped quietly. He knew that he couldn't escape this intertwining of fates, whether it was Bai Yueguang or a stand-in, he could never let go. In the end, Liao Chengxian did not choose either side. He decided to let all emotions flow into his paintings, so that those unspeakable love and pain will always exist invisibly with the flow of the brush. Chapter 6, Unfinished Paintings. With Liao Chenxuan's decision, he poured all his emotions onto the canvas. The studio became his only safe haven, a place where his past and Bai Kangxuan's past were intertwined, as well as a reflection of his intricate emotions with Xiao Fengchen. His paintings began to be full of contradictions and pain, some of which were so beautiful that they had an indescribable sadness. One day, when Liao Chengxian was in the studio, waving his brush intently, Xiao Fengchen came to his side. He stood quietly in the doorway, watching the painting take shape. In the painting, he and Bai Kangxuan are intertwined, as if the two are dancing together in the moonlight, while he himself, like a bystander, cannot enter such a world. You paint so seriously, it doesn't seem like you're painting for me anymore. Xiao Fengchen's tone was full of helplessness, but he didn't enter the studio, just stood quietly outside. Liao Chengxian stopped his pen and looked up at him. Xiao Fengchen's expression carried a hint of sadness, and his eyes, which were always cold, were full of struggle and anxiety at this time. I don't want anyone to live for me, Liao Chengxian whispered. Maybe I should have let go of Bai Kangxuan sooner, but it's not an easy matter. He was always in my heart, even though he was no longer a part of my life. Xiao Fengchen was silent for a moment, and then walked into the studio, where he stood beside Liao Chengxian, looking at the painting with a hint of confusion in his eyes. You know what? I don't want to be a substitute, I just want to be a part of your life. His voice trembled a little. No matter what Bai Kangxuan does, I hope you can see me and see the real me. Liao Chengxian turned around and looked at the painting, with a surging in his heart. He knew that he had never really seen Xiao Fengchen's sincerity, he just regarded him as a continuation of the past, and did not really understand him. Perhaps, I should give myself another chance. Liao Chengxian muttered. Chapter 7, Shadow and Moonlight. However, just when Liao Chengxian decided to re-examine his relationship with Xiao Fengchen, an unexpected thing happened. One night, when Liao Chengxian was deep asleep, he heard Bai Kangxuan's whisper again. This time, the voice was filled with strong emotion. You're going to choose me after all, right? You haven't been able to let go of me all this time. Bai Kangxuan's voice became rapid and sad. I'm waiting for you here, waiting for you to come back, waiting for you to love me again. Liao Chengxian woke up in shock, staring around with vacant eyes. He knew that this was not just an auditory hallucination. Bai Kangxuan's soul was always by his side, and this attachment was no longer a simple guardian, but an urgent desire. At this time, Xiao Fengchen's image appeared in his mind, and Liao Chengxian couldn't help but feel his heart tighten. He always thought that he could let go of the past and regard Bai Kangxuan as a memory of the past, but that unspoken emotion was still deeply imprinted in his heart. Bai Kangxuan is not only his past, he is the deepest pain and longing in his heart. No matter how he tries to get rid of it, he can never get rid of the shackles of this emotion. However, Liao Chenxuan's heart was not completely relieved of Bai Kangxuan's past. He looked at himself on the canvas and was stunned, as if he was asking himself, so, who am I looking for? underscore 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 un. Chapter 8, Endless Loop. Time passed, and Liao Chengxian was still stuck in a struggle with the past. He was once again trapped in an endless loop, and no matter how hard he tried, the emptiness in his heart could never be filled. Whenever he got along with Xiao Fengchen, Bai Kangxuan's figure would quietly appear, and this feeling made him feel at a loss. One day, when Liao Chengxian was painting in the studio, Bai Kangxuan appeared again. This time, Liao Chengxian did not panic. He looked down at the paint stained on the brush, and slowly spoke, "What do you want me to do? I can't go on like this." Bai Kangxuan's figure seemed more real. He floated in, stood gently behind Liao Chengxian, and said softly, "You can never get rid of me. I am your past, and Xiao Fengchen is your current replacement. You can't escape either of the two." At this moment, Liao Chenxuan's heart completely collapsed. He covered his face in pain, trying to hide his inner panic and struggle. He understood that what he had been escaping from was a truth. Whether it was Bai Kangxuan or Xiao Fengchen, the emotions of both were binding him at the same time. And in the end, it all points to his own choice. "I choose not to love anyone." Liao Chengxian finally said this. His tone was so low, "I can't let go of the past, but I can't accept the emotions of the present. I just want to have a world of my own." Underscore 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 un. Chapter 9, The Moonlight of Itself. Liao Chengxian finally made his choice. He decided to let go of all emotions and no longer rely on anyone. He withdrew from Xiao Fengchen's life and began to repaint, focusing on creating works of art that belonged only to him. As time passed, Bai Kangxuan's ghost gradually disappeared, and Xiao Fengchen chose to leave and no longer disturb Liao Chenxuan's world. The emotions between the two eventually became memories of the past, like moonlight, gradually disappearing into the boundless night sky. Liao Chengxian finally found his own tranquility. The light in his studio is still dim, the brush is swaying on the canvas, and every work he creates is as cool and powerful as the moonlight. In the silence of this, he finally understood that the wounds of the past, no matter what, could no longer bring him true salvation. Only by moving forward can we truly have our own future.